So, I um I wanted to make this video where I wanted to sort of discuss this sort of rumor that's been going around that about Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. And apparently the rumor going around that the plot for Episode 9 is going to include time travel. And I just wanted to discuss why not only is this just just from a storytelling perspective, it's just bad. It can be good if it's done right, but more so, like, what does it tell you that out of everything they could have done for Episode 9, which according to them is going to be the last movie that takes place in the Skywalker saga, according to them. This is the very last one, and it's going to include time travel. So basically, what happens is apparently Rey and the Resistance have a plan that includes getting a piece of tech from the destroyed Death Star. You know, the one we saw in the trailer that was released in the Star Wars convention. And like, what does it really tell you that considering this is the very last, well, according to them, the very last film that takes place in the Skywalker saga, like this is supposed to end the Skywalker story, which of course we know started with Anakin Skywalker and ended with, well, we thought it ended with Luke Skywalker, defeating, helping defeat the Empire with Palpatine and Vader. Like, so apparently what's going to happen is like they're going to use time travel to sort of fix everything. And apparently this is going to they're going to go back to key moments in the prequels and the original trilogy. And I'm here to discuss why that's just a bad idea. And why not just a bad idea, why it's a lazy idea. And it just feels like from a creative standpoint, it feels lazy. Like you're telling me out of everything you could have done, you resorted to time travel. I mean, that was as much as I loved Endgame. One of the things, but leading up to Endgame, one of the things that I was hoping and praying they wouldn't do was use time travel to fix everything. Like I was hoping, that they would have found any other way, any other way to fix what Thanos did, and they resorted to time travel. I don't know why. Like, are you telling me the same people wrote and who wrote the screenplay for Infinity War? You're telling me they couldn't have come up with anything other than time travel? I mean, I don't know if that was necessarily their choice or if that was a decision made by Kevin Feige, but I don't know. I wouldn't have done time travel. Just think of anything else. Anything else. Now, don't get me wrong. I still loved Endgame. In my opinion, it felt like a great way to just end it. No pun intended. Just just end it. I mean, where do you really go from here? What story do you tell? You already told your story. A story that was told over 22 plus films. A story that was told over 10 years. I mean, that's never been done before, and you did it. Like, you could have just ended it right there. You didn't even need to. I mean, you could make more movies, but you didn't have to keep like the MCU going. Like, all of your other movies that come afterwards could just be like their own sort of standalone films that aren't really a part of this bigger story, but just their own standalone story. Like, they could still take place in the same universe, but like, you make it clear to the audience that these movies are intended to tell their own story. Like they're not all a part of this one big overarching story. Like with every movie we've seen so far up to Endgame. Um, again, they could still take place in the same universe. Like this is the same universe that had, like, it's still probably still dealing with the after effects of what Thanos did. Well, not necessarily since it got reversed and Endgame. Now they're acting like it never even happened, which is anyway. So this is why I just think that time travel. I again, this is still just a rumor. It's unconfirmed, but I really do hope that it's not true because I mean, look, whether you loved or hated The Last Jedi, you have to admit it divided the fandom. Like it split the fans right down the middle. You had the people who loved The Last Jedi, you had people who absolutely hated The Last Jedi. There were some people in the middle who liked some things they did but didn't like other things they did. You had some people who just didn't like it or hate it. They just thought it was it was okay. But those people are the minority. Unfortunately, there are more and more people who either hated or loved The Last Jedi for their own reasons. And I'm not here to judge anyone whether you liked or hated it. Now, and to me, it just feels like if they resort to time travel, to me, it just kind of says like, hey, we effed up, and now we need to find a way to fix it. Like we killed off like probably the main character of Star Wars. Like we killed off everyone's hero in you have to admit it was unsatisfying the way he died. It was unsatisfying. And to me it just feels like if they do resort to time travel, it just tells us the audience that they kind of wrote themselves into a corner. Well, Ryan Johnson wrote themselves into a corner because, he came out and said that he had pretty much full creative freedom. Like there was nobody there to tell him no. And maybe that's one of the reasons why The Last Jedi kind of failed. Maybe he needed someone there to tell him like, okay, look, for the most part you can tell the story you want to tell, but you also have to operate within these boundaries. Like, maybe don't kill off Luke Skywalker because we need him for Episode 9, or um, you know have Rey and Kylo fight, and Rey could lose. That way, she comes back stronger in Episode 9. Stuff like that. She could go back to Luke and finish her training, or start her training. Because let's face it, Luke didn't really teach her anything. And the reason why I'm worried is because the idea of using time travel to just in Episode 9, I don't know if they're necessarily going to use time travel to fix anything, but the very idea of using time travel in itself is just so bad. I'm afraid they might actually do it because you have to admit Disney's movies lately haven't really been creative. And what I mean by that is look at almost every Disney movie that not counting Marvel or Pixar. Look at every movie Disney proper has made. If you think about it creatively, there wasn't really much there. I mean, most of the movies we have now are just these live action remakes, and they don't even really do anything with them. They just they recreate the same animated movie that we've already seen, except maybe they add in a few like details here and there that people like sort of pointed out with the plot of in the original animated universe and the original animated their original animated counterparts. That like okay, to give you an example, and like let's look at it in Beauty and the Beast. One of the questions people had was, well, like how come we never saw Belle's mom? And in the live action, they answered it's that she got sick and died. And something else is they like one of the questions is how come no one in the village where Belle lives, how come no one knows about the beast? How come no one knows about the castle? I mean, you would think a giant castle, you'd think they'd be able to see it, and yet nobody ever talks about it. And they answer that it's because although it's because the witch who turned him into the beast, like she did it as his punishment because he was so arrogant that she made everyone who pretty much worshipped him forget he even existed. and that because of the way he acted. Although again, why she did was kind of stupid. I still don't like that. But they do certain things like that. They answer certain questions, but in but for the most part, they're just shot for shot remakes. Like there's no real reason for these movies to exist other than for the sole reason to make money. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that every movie is supposed to make money. That's why studios invest in them. They invest in them because they want to make money. But the problem is when you make a movie just to make money, it just feels soulless. It feels creatively bankrupt. Like you just hire these people to put some shit together and that's it. Like they didn't put any heart and soul in it. They didn't put any creativity in it, and people can tell just by watching it. Like people can tell, oh, you just made some by the numbers book, by the numbers movie, or TV or television series that you didn't even bother to put any creativity into. You didn't bother to put any heart in it. Like the people who worked behind it didn't even like they didn't care about the project. This was just a paycheck to them, and you can sort of tell that. That's why a lot of these movies you go see them once, and you never really feel like going back to the theater and never seeing them again. It's just like and you forget them within like 2 weeks after seeing it, maybe even a week after seeing it if it's really bad. And that's why to me, when I hear that they're going to resort to something like time travel, to me, it just reinforces the notion that Disney just feels. Now, don't get me, now, I know that technically this is Lucasfilm, but Lucasfilm works for Disney, and well, Lucasfilm is owned by Disney, and the fact that all of these movies lately, episode 7, 8, and if this is true, it's going to be episode 9, again, if all of these movies feel creatively bankrupt. Like there's no heart and soul behind them. Like this wasn't being made. Like these movies weren't being made by people who genuinely um, cared. It didn't feel like it was being made by people who actually wanted to tell a story. I mean, say what you want about the prequels. At least George Lucas wanted to tell a story. Like he was trying to tell the story of Anakin Skywalker's descent into the dark side. I mean, you could ignore episode 1 and 2 and just watch episode 3. I mean, I feel like that's enough. But I mean, at least George Lucas had sort of an idea of what he wanted to do. These recent movies, they didn't feel like it was planned by one person who had a vision for what these three movies would be. He didn't have. They don't feel like they were being made by someone who had a vision of the story he wanted to tell, like the story that he or she wanted to tell. It just felt like let's just put out these movies to try and make money. Or I mean, you could argue that maybe J.J. Abrams had a story he wanted to tell, but because they brought in another director for episode 8, which that in itself isn't bad, but when you give that director complete creative freedom and you don't tell him like okay you can do what you can do, tell the story you want, but you still have to follow these, like there are certain boundaries you can't cross. And when you just tell them like okay you can just go ahead and do whatever you want, you end up with a movie like The Last Jedi, which on its own may not be bad, but when you consider the universe that it's in and the movie that came before it, it just feels jarring. And this is why, like, it just it just feels like the entire sequel trilogy is a mess. It comes off as a mess, and it is a mess. I mean, episode 7 sets up so many things that never got answered in episode 8. Now it feels like they're trying to rush and answer them in episode 9. Except now, again, if this rumor is true, it seems like they're just gonna use episode 9 to try and fix the mistakes of episode 7 and 8, or well, mostly 7, mostly episode 8. But again, I hope that's not true because it just feels it just feels cheap. And to me, it sucks that this is coming from Disney because Disney used to be so creative. Like all of their movies felt so creative, they felt so full of life. And now they just feel soulless. It just feels like they just they only care about making money, and it feels, and I don't blame them because they pretty much own everything now. They pretty much own all of their fans. And to me that just it sucks because I don't know what Bob Iger is doing, but he needs to change some things. Like, first of all, you need to stop with the remakes, and second of all, Star Wars Star Wars needs to go back to what it used to be. Star Wars used to be a film made for everyone. Like, anyone can watch Star Wars and enjoy it, whether you're young or old, man, woman, it doesn't matter. What People from all different walks of life can enjoy Star Wars. But now it feels like these movies are being made by it feels like they're being made by committee. It feels like they're being made by people who don't really love Star Wars, or they love Star Wars, but they kind of, or they like their version of Star Wars. They don't like what Star Wars is, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. It's just I again, I'm sorry. I know this video is long, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. And by the way, I'm sorry if this video seems all over the place because I didn't script this. I just these are just the thoughts of the top of my head. I don't know. I mean, I hope it changes. It really does. And again, I hope this isn't true. I genuinely hope this isn't true. So anyway, that's all I have. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Um, Please subscribe and please hit that like button. It really will help this channel. And you know what? Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. If this is true, if it is true that it's going to involve time travel, I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think about this? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think I'm being crazy? And what do you think about everything else I said in this video? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I see you in the next video. Bye.